Good morning, lovely friends. How are you all today? I hope you're well. Just looking out there, we're now officially in spring. Yay! And it does feel like it actually. There are little signs of life here and there. The days are getting longer. You know, it's gone 6 o'clock now before it's getting dark, and of course in a few days time we'll change our clocks. Don't forget folks, it's the last weekend of the month on Saturday night. The clocks go forward, spring forward, fall back. So we'll have an extra hour in the evening, yay! And that's great, that suits me because I'm not a morning person. I wouldn't care if it was pitch black till 10 in the morning. Having said that, it's really early today because I've got a lot to do today. A little bit of garden, but a lot to do elsewhere, so I'm trying to get a bit of a head start. So weather-wise, it's still mild-ish. We're hovering around sort of 10-11 degrees at the moment. A little bit more when the sun comes out. Today we're not due any sunshine, very cloudy, so it does feel a bit more chilly, so I've got a couple of layers on. And one of the first things I've done this morning is I've just gone and put my hand in the spud trenches again. Remember the last time I was here, I was getting my spud trenches ready. They still feel really quite chilly, so I'm not in a hurry to plant the spuds. I've planted my spuds as late as the middle of May before now and had a great harvest, so no hurry. I'll leave it a few more days probably, and then think about sowing them, planting them. So what's on the agenda for today? Let's get comfy. Well, today is mostly about, well, a little bit about flowers, but it's mostly going to be about the peas. So last year, for the first year ever, I didn't grow any peas. I'd kind of made a decision that I don't have space for them, they take up too much space, the yield is low, I'm not going to do them. Got to the middle of last summer, other people were eating their beautiful fresh peas and I was jealous. Because, you know, isn't it one of life's absolute perfect, beautiful pleasures to just take a pod off the plant, crack it open and chuck the lot back down our throats. I'm sure the majority of us have the same problem in that hardly any of the peas make it home because we just nibble them on the plot in the garden. They're gorgeous. So I decided, yes, I am going to grow them again this year. Where I had the cathedral bed last year, I'm doing similar this year, but I've got one more little extra mini Pima bed within that bed. So I'm going to get the peas in there. But the problem with peas is they do suffer from damage from the naughty little pea moth. So I thought, I'm just reaching for my water, sorry guys. I thought before I even start to sow them today, which is early, and this is part of the explanation, I thought I'd just talk a little bit about the pea moth very quickly. Because I'm sure we've all had it, that thing, you pop the pod open, really excited to scoff your little green jewels, and you open it and it's a mess in there. There's little wriggling wormy things, there's probably some brown gooey mess in there. I'm not going to tell you what that is, but you can probably guess. And you know, you might have a pod with 8 peas in, of which maybe 2 are undamaged. So what can we do to stop the pea moth? Because that's what it is, it's the pea moth caterpillars that are inside your peas doing all that damage. So if we understand a little bit about the life cycle of the pea moth, that can help us to combat the issue. So here goes. The pea moth emerges in June and July, generally June, but June through July. So let's think of a June-July window. Pea moth emerges, finds a mate, do whatever they need to do, and then the female moth needs somewhere to lay her eggs. Sorry, got a tickle already. The female pea moth Her favourite place to lay her eggs is, of course, on our peas, and she's particularly attracted to peas which are in flower. She lays her eggs, the little caterpillars hatch. The caterpillars then burrow into the pod and start feasting away on our beautiful produce. When that little caterpillars had their fill, when their tummy's really full, they burrow back out of the pod and they go into the soil, which is where they pupate. And then next year, come June, they emerge as the pea moth to start that cycle all over again. So, there's a couple of things we can do to avoid the disaster of our peas being riddled with pea moths. It really is one of the most disappointing and disgusting things in the world, isn't it, to open up your peas and they're alive with little wormy things. So what I'm going to do today, where are we? We're not quite the end of March. I'm not sure of the date, it's about the 22nd, 23rd. So we're a week away from the end of March, which is quite early for me to do peas, because I would normally direct sow them at about the beginning of May, sometimes into April if we're having good weather. So I'm going to start some off today in the cold frame, the idea being that hopefully I'll get an early harvest, so I can harvest and beat the pea moth at her own game. I'll get the peas before she gets a chance to lay on them. That's one way. I'm just going to do a few like that, but then the majority of them I will direct sow, and then when we get towards June, July, I'll cover them with Enviromesh. Now, I don't have a lot of Enviromesh. The big piece I've got usually gets reserved for the carrots and leeks. So, but I think with a few scraps and bits and bobs, I'll have enough to cover it. Now, some of you may be thinking, hang on a minute, how are the bees going to get in if it's covered in Enviromesh? How are they going to pollinate? How are your peas going to produce pods if they're all closed off from the gorgeous bees? Here's the great thing about peas. They're self-pollinating. Yay! Basically, the flowers of the peas have both male and female parts, so they don't need the insects to do the job of pollination for them. So if you wanted to do all of your peas and have them all under Enviromesh, that would be absolutely fine. They'll still pollinate, you'll still get your beautiful pods. And hopefully, having them covered means the pea moth can't get in there to lay her eggs. Eggs turn into caterpillars, caterpillars go into our peas, caterpillars spoil our peas. So there we go. So I'm going to try a few early. I'm going to start them off in the cold frame. Also, at the moment, the bed, the direct sown ones will go in. It's still covered. I want to leave it covered for as long as possible, uncover it just at the last minute when I'm ready to sow. So at the moment there's nowhere to put the ones today out directly. So yeah, I'll start them off in pots in the cold frame. I'm kind of in one of those moods today as well. I'm just feeling like sitting around and just enjoying the air and the bird song and the colours. And there's a nice kind of that damp earth smell today because it is a little bit damp out here. Right, before I wax lyrical, let's get out into the garden and do some stuff. Just before I start thinking about sowing edible peas, garden peas, green peas, whatever you want to call them, I'm just going to have a little tend of my sweet peas. So, when were the first lots sown? Second week of January, was it? Then a couple of weeks later, after they come up, I did another sowing because I suddenly had this newfound confidence in growing sweet peas, which I've never managed before, but there we go. So I've got my second sowings all in this tray now, and they're all about maybe 2 to 3 inches tall, and they've all got 2 sets of leaves. Some of them have got 3, but these are the ones that I sowed first. Let me take one out at a time so it's a bit more clear. So you can see they're now about sort of 4 or 5 inches tall, and they've all got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or more sets of 2 leaves on them. So it's about now that I want to start pinching them out, because although yes, I do want them to go up, I want them to develop some bushiness. I want them to develop some side shoots, which will also grow. The more shoots I've got coming off the side, the more shoots I've got to bear flowers later on. So literally all I'm going to do with all of them is, oh, there we go, pinch out just that very wee little growing tip on all of them. And like I say, hopefully that will encourage some side shoots, bushier growth, and like I say, the more shoots, the more flowers ultimately. Now what is that? Oh, it's just a speck of dirt. I thought for a second I had a black fly. Too soon, way too soon. So I shall continue to do that with those in a second. And like I say, these that were the second sowings, they're probably another 2 weeks away or so from being pinched out. And then when I come to plant them all, so they're all sown in little groups of anywhere between 3 and 5. Obviously there are some which haven't germinated at all, but mostly I've got sort of between 3 and 5 in a pot. And all I'll do when it comes to planting time is I'll just tip the pot out and plant the whole lot together up against a stick of some sort. It needs to be a rough stick. It needs to be rough so I can get their tendrils onto it. Bean poles, they're a little bit smooth for them to climb on. But things like, I've got here my bits of broken willow, really rough. They should be able to grab onto those with their tendrils. Now, sorry, I've got this dreadful tickle today. I've had a real sort of scratch in my throat for 2 or 3 days now, and I hope it's not coming to something, because that'll be really annoying at this time of the year. Anyway, let's carry on. I've got some more sweet peas to sow. So these have come from a friend. It says Zinfandel on the packet, but actually it's a mixture. It's some of her saved seeds. And sweet peas for both of us, for both our families, have quite a lot of significance. So it's really lovely to have some from her for me to try and grow. Now that I've had this tiny little bit of success for the first time ever, I really hope I can grow these from her. And what I'm thinking is the pot and the trough by the shed, so that when I'm sitting outside the shed, especially in the evening, that scent, lovely scent, will waft. So come on, let's get some sown in the pot. I don't have enough compost to fill this little trough at the moment, so I'm going to have to leave that for another day. But in the past I've tended to put my French Dulong-de-Londe peppers in here, as well as a couple of geraniums. But what I'm thinking this year for those peppers is they can go in the front of the mini hugel culture pots, leaving this trough empty purely for some flowers around the shed. Because let's face it, you know, flowers by the shed, perfect. I don't have a huge amount of space for flowers in the garden. I always do some, of course, for the insects apart from anything else. So it'd be nice to have some here that are more for me, as well as the insects. These aren't soaked, they're just going straight in. I will give it a jolly good water. That's just a little bit of extra compost. In this pot also is that lemon balm that I bought last year from that absolutely disastrous, shoddy, shonky online seller. Never mind. But it's done well over the winter. So hopefully they'll come up. If for some reason they don't, not to worry, I will either put in here some of the ones that I started, or I've got all those geranium cuttings that I've been taking, they can come in here. But I am going to put these supports in now as a show of optimism. So like I say, these are just, oh, I need one more, I think. These are find another one, Vivi. Oh, do. Yeah, the sort of rather dilapidated, brittle willow sticks that I had. So they're no use for supporting anything heavy like, tomatoes, anything like that. But for something for the peas to climb up, sweet peas, that'll work perfectly. Right, fortunately I've got a full water butt so I can get on and give that a jolly good soak now. Yay, happy sweet peas, please grow for me. Such a beautiful day for doing this sort of quiet, slow work with the birds at it again. It's gorgeous. So, peas. I'm actually going to sow them pretty generously in these pots. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, whoopsie, 5 per pot. It might seem like a lot, but if you were just casting them into a trench, you'd probably end up with more than that. They shouldn't mind. They should be happy bedfellows. So yeah, like I said, I've never ever sown this early before. I've never sown peas in pots, always direct. So it'll be fun to see how they get on. And what would be lovely is, of course, if I do get a slightly earlier harvest. Where are we now? End of March, April, May. So hopefully, maybe by the end of June, I'll have something to harvest. That'd be great, because it's that funny time of year, June, when apart from salad leaves, there's not much else ready to harvest. So this will be great, and of course by the end of June I will be probably really tired of eating last year's squash and bottled tomatoes and such like. There we go. I'm actually going to do 2 trays like this. I'll do the other one in a minute and give everything a really good water, and then these can just go and sit in the cold frame. While I'm having a quiet tinker time, enjoying the birds, I'm going to attack the marjoram. Hopefully it's clear to see on there. Just cutting back all of last year's dead wood. Is that showing up in the light? Just be careful as you go that you're going back to growth. That's all dead. And I'm always amazed how great the plant looks again after a haircut. Yay! There we go. That looks better and happier now, doesn't it? Oh, one more bit. I think that will just about do it. The smell. Oh, that's gorgeous. That's the thing about herbs, isn't it? You just want to run your hands through them to release that beautiful scent. That's why it's nice to have them on the deck, actually, so that at the end of the day, when I'm done doing whatever I'm doing in the garden, I can just run my hands through and get that gorgeous whiff. Right, I think it's time to go and sow some flower seeds. So, now that I can see where things are coming up again, like the lovage, the sweet cicely, the little black markers are for the lilies. I don't think they'll all come up, but basically now I can see where things are. I'm going to have a little bit of a scattering, a direct sow of some calendula, just to fill in gaps whilst these plants are all still getting established. And let's face it, I don't think you can have too much calendula in the garden. So all I'm going to do is just scratch it in a little bit. It's quite moist here, but I think I'll give them a sprinkle of water anyway. Oh well, it's really cold, you know. I'll give them a little sprinkle of water just to set them on their way. I don't normally sow my calendula direct until about the beginning of May, but that's out of habit because I sow it in with the parsnips. So obviously this isn't a parsnip bed, so I can get it underway now. Right, let's give it a water. Not too much, like I say, just get them going a little bit. I'll repeat the same in other parts of the herb bed. Where else? Oh, I've spotted somewhere I can do some. Right then, I think a few between the hyssop and the thyme, and then if later on I can source another chamomile plant from somewhere, I'd like to actually have the chamomile in here, but in the absence of it, for now, let's scratch a few more of those in. Of course, now I'm scratching over these beds, I'm sure that cats and foxes will also think it's somewhere to scratch. Grow, my little pretties, grow. Okay, good. Just a quickie today. It really has been just a flying visit of a couple of hours. It's supposed to be an indoor sewing day for me today, as in needle and thread sewing, S-E-W, sewing. But I just wanted to pop down first thing, get a few seeds sown, and just enjoy that outside time with the birds singing. And I want to stay all day now, because over the course of the morning all my neighbours have been turning up, and it's just such a really lovely atmosphere down here at the minute. It's brilliant. But I'm not going to stay because I've got a lot of work to do. So I hope the information about the Pea Moth was useful. Hopefully we can all prevent our peas from being ravaged this year. I hope so. Fingers crossed for those peas I've sown today in the cold frame. I see no reason why they shouldn't start coming along straight away, as opposed to my normal direct sowings that I would do at the end of April. Who knows? We'll see. If you don't try, you don't know, do you? Anyway, it's time for me to say cheerio to you all. I'm going to toddle off back home and get on with my sewing machine jobs. I hope you're all managing to have some fun outside. I hope, my goodness, those of you with snow, I hope it's starting to melt by now. And also any of those of you who had damage after the last lot of storms, I hope you've managed to get back on top of things and fix things that needed fixing. So I will see you all again really soon, I hope. But in the meantime, have fun whatever you're up to and take care of yourselves.